We did it. She can poop. Hey, it's a new day aboard SV Yara, and kind of wet and gross today. Man, this spring just will not come. It's just feeling like fall and winter just won't quit this year, which is fine. That's what keeps us green and with plenty of water, fresh water to drink in this part of the woods. So we are back on the boat. Yesterday was kind of a mixed bag. We did a little bit. We cleaned up that terminal. Looks all nice and shiny. We stripped out a few unused wires. Let's see, what else did we do? We found some core rot in the place where we're going to mount our fuel gauge. And we learned that we got to kind of switch our brains and turn our switches and dilly-dobs to start doing other things. Like I'm in kind of wiring mode now. Whereas before we were in like epoxy and basically plumbing mode. So yeah, had a really good night's sleep. Watched a couple of YouTube videos on how to hook up these sending units and these gauges, so I'm feeling good. What's interesting is in the instructions in both of so this is the sending unit and this is the gauge. In neither of these instructions does it actually say to hook the S here to the tank. The only thing that I can kind of deduce, and this is an assumption, based on the instructions only, it's an assumption. YouTube videos aside, additional research aside, I don't know if anybody just reading these instructions would be able to pull their stuff together to figure out what the S is on the gauge. Now, when we went to install the sending unit, we had some complaints about Moeller. This is all Moeller stuff. Moeller. Or Moeller, or however you say it, I don't know. It's not good stuff, I ain't gonna lie. The instructions are crap. The sending unit, the bolt patterns were all wrong, and the thread pitch on the installation screws didn't match the Moeller tank. You guys might have saw that video, but I'm not too thrilled. So here's what I found out. On the tank itself, there's this center stud, and that center stud gets bolted up. You bolt up a wire to it, and that's the sender wire from the fuel gauge to the threaded screw terminal on sender. So here's our threaded screw terminal, and there's our wire. So that has to go here. So S, right? S. Nowhere in the instructions does it say S on your gauge is for sender on your fuel tank. I mean, SS, okay, that makes sense, but it doesn't specifically call that out, which is frustration number one. Now, frustration number two is less of a frustration, and that just is when you do your negatives. So this is going to be a negative for power, but it's also going to be the negative for the actual tank itself. The instructions, if you look at the wiring diagrams, that is a little more clear, but again, it doesn't actually specifically say that the negative for the gauge and the negative for the tank should all be on the same negative post. It doesn't actually specifically say that. So you kind of have to do a little bit of research with this Moeller crap or avoid it if there's an alternative. But yeah, it is what we got. I'm working through it, and fingers crossed we'll be able to get the gauge essentially installed, meaning like all the wires hooked up. And then if this rain comes down, maybe we can actually put some fuel in the tank to see if the gauge works. I don't know. But anyways, that's the goal for today, at least to get all the wiring hooked up. Then if that goes well, we'll see from there. But yeah, that's where we're at. Basically a continuation from yesterday. It's just taking a bit longer because we've got to flip that switch in our brain to think about a different system, think about wiring, think about fusing, think about gauge sizes and voltage and runs and switches, and like, it's a different, and that's what I like about this type of project, this boat. Like, this thing has all of these various systems, and they're always going to be needing maintenance or upgrading or replacement. So it keeps us on our toes. It keeps us thinking. It keeps us sharp. It keeps us, yeah, like learning something new every single time. And I enjoy that. So let's get started for the day. All right. Goodness. 2 hours. 2 hours to fully get this all wired up. So I've got my, so this is the sending unit to the tank. We've got a negative to the tank, a negative to the 12 volt, a positive to the 12 volt, and then just this little jumper wire from the positive to the light. In the instructions, they tell you to hook up the little like backlight to a switch. I don't care to have the light on a separate switch, so I just did. It'll just be when this thing has power, the little light in there will be on. Another point about this Moeller crap is they shipped it with a incandescent bulb. I'm like, why don't you just put an LED in there? There can't be that much, like a couple pennies more for an LED bulb. Come on. Like, so I just ordered a little replacement bulb set from Amazon. We'll switch it out. So even though the bulb's going to be on basically the whole time this thing has power, it'll be negligible, inconsequential to the overall power draw in our whole boat. So yeah, no big deal. Yeah, so so my next step now is to take this mess of wires that I've got and start hooking things up. So I'm going to hook it up to the tank, I'm going to hook it up to the power, and then switch on the power to make sure the light actually works, because I admit when I was working on this, I dropped it. It fell from the table, hit that step right there, and then hit the floor. So I don't know if it will still work. But if it doesn't work, I don't know. We'll just go from there. But it should work. I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit worried that I dropped it. A, it's supposedly marine grade, but B, it's this Moeller crap that I've just constantly run into issues with. It's probably not made to drop, because this is really just made to be installed. But hey, if I did drop it, I can get another one, I guess, and I've got all the wires already done, and that was the hard part. All right, anyway, enough talking. Now I'm gonna go hook it up to the tank itself. All right, so just got the gauge kind of resting in where I want it to go, so that way I can make sure that all my my electrical wiring is long enough. And again, this is just a test run to make sure we're gonna have power and maybe get some some diesel in the tank to see if we can get a level reading. That would be pretty cool. But let's hook up the electrical first. Okay, you see where the daylight's coming through? That is the hole we're gonna have to fix eventually because of the rotted core. But the gauge is poked through there, and I've just kind of temporarily ran the wires down. So I got power, positive and negative to that block that we cleaned up. Then we have negative on the tank and negative and the sender. So the red one is the sender there, and then that post is the negative. So next thing we are going to do is power it on. Power on this right there. I don't even know what that's called. A bus bar? They kind of look like bus bars. So we'll use that. We'll power on that bus bar. my brain is not in electrical mode, remember? So we'll power on the bus bar, and then we should see a light on our gauge. So we'll do that first. If we see that, then we should put some fuel in the tank. Oh my god! We'll do some fuel in the tank. It's empty right now, but I don't see why we couldn't put fuel in it. We're gonna need to put fuel in it at some point. Might as well be today. All right. Let's switch on cockpit power. Boop. So now, let's go look at our gauge. The sun, of course, the sun comes out right when we're gonna check out a light in the cockpit. So we might be able to see it, but I doubt it. Oh no, you can see it. Yeah. Well, you guys can't, but I can see it. Yeah, that's lit up in there. I think we should put some fuel in the tank. Yes! This is cross-linked polyethylene tanks. They expand in size, 2 to 3 inches in every direction. So, I've been meaning to get fuel in here. Well, A, because we are a boat and we have a diesel engine and we need fuel. But B, this is the first time we're putting fuel in here, so we'll let it expand. And then these straps that are kind of holding things down, they should get tighter over time. And so keep an eye on that. And if they don't, we've kind of allowed for some adjustment down here, and this one isn't even hooked up yet. So we'll just let it kind of do its thing over the next, I don't know, however long. And then I can come back and test those straps to see if they're tight and secure. But so far, our platform that we built, it's been glued and screwed, glued, screwed, and then glued down here with these supports. That's doing pretty good, because that's a lot of weight, you know? And we actually can see the weight difference at the front of the boat. I'll go show you guys that too. It's pretty cool. The front of the boat has kind of come out of the water a little bit, but I have a plan for that. So let's go take a look at that and see what that looks like. It's kind of interesting. See the brown right at the water, right where the water touches the hole. That's how the water line has changed, because we put weight at the back of the boat with our diesel, so the back of the boat's sitting lower, which means the front of the boat's popped up a little bit, but not a lot of it, right? So a manageable bit. And then we're going to offset that with chain road. So right now most of our road is just rope, but we're going to switch to all chain, and the all chain road is going to bring some weight to the front of the boat. So, and then I did the math with like the weight of the diesel, 40 gallons of diesel, the tank, some other things like fittings and things like that. I kind of added all that up, plus 300 or 400 feet of chain. It's almost equal, so it's not going to be a big deal. But yeah, let's get out of this rain, and the sailboat's coming in. So let's go see if we can't grab a line for them too. Be a good dock neighbor. Check it out. Got things put away, got the fill closed up, this all wiped down, everything wiped down. I mean, honestly, there was probably like a dozen drips, like just fuel drips, and cleaning the hose, the siphon hose, transferring the siphon hose from one jerry can to another. That was when most of the drips happened, but I caught them early. We didn't have any spills, which is fantastic. I think that system, at least for right here on the dock, worked really well. Yeah, so now you saw the tank, it was full. I'm gonna do a little more cleanup and pickup, and then I'm gonna send power to our new gauge, a fuel gauge, and see if I can do any troubleshooting. Yeah, let's give that a go. Okay, no power, showing empty. That would kind of be expected, right? No power, showing empty. So let's go put power to it. Let's see what we can do. Power. I expect it to still show empty, but let's take a look. Yeah, no change. Still shows empty. And the light's on in there too. Okay. So we have the right ohms at the tank, we have the right ohms at the gauge. Power is feeding to it just fine. Actually, you know what? Let's test to make sure we're getting 12 volts. That can't hurt. Hold, please. Alright, guys. The problem exists between the chair and keyboard. It's me. Watch this. So I got, this is on 12 volts right now. So here we go. Negative probe to the negative post. Positive probe to the positive post. So we're getting good voltage. But look, it's negative 12. That means I've hooked up the wiring wrong. So I'm going to turn off the power and go down below and explore what I've done. It's definitely my fault. I still dropped it, so it still could be broken because of that. But negative 12 volts suggests that I've got the wires crossed somewhere. So power off. Let's go take a look at that. Back in our favorite hole to investigate electrical gremlins, and I think I found the issue. Look, positive, negative. Black wire on the negative, red wire on the positive. But yours truly has put the negative on the positive side and the positive on the negative side. Well, that could explain a lot. Let's flip those around and see if we've got any difference in our fuel gauge. give that a try. All right. Positive on the positive side, negative on the negative side. Maybe I shouldn't be so hard on Moeller. I should be hard on myself. All right. Let's go put power to it and see if we have a gauge that reads accurately. All right, one more time. Cockpit power on. Fingers crossed. Let's go take a look at what we got. Moment of truth. Look at that. Lights on. Tank is showing full. Feels so good. Man, that feels good. Major milestone today, you guys. Yeah, you know how I was talking about like switching my brain to think about the electrical gizmos rather than the plumbing gizmos that we've been focused on. Plumbing for the fuel and all that, right? But yeah, just the simple positive negative switch. That's just like another example of like you just gotta be in the right mindset for some of these projects to, you know, really get into it. And it takes practice, and it, you know, I'm not a pro. I'm learning this as I go. So to kind of think about it in that way, like, okay, we're switching gears, we're switching projects, we're switching the way we think, we're switching the guidelines and the rules that we should follow. Yeah, feels good though to have that working. And yeah, I shouldn't rag on Moeller too hard, even though I'm still not super happy with their instructions and things like that. It actually did work. Hey, I dropped the gauge and it still worked. So yeah, it's pretty neat. Okay, well, I think it's been a good day. I'm gonna wrap up and head out of here, go get some dinner. Thanks for watching, guys. You know, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time. Today was a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of new ways of thinking, but it's also a yacht of love. See you guys.